This goes. Can you see the puppy sleeping right here? I think that you're just a little bit. There we go. Oh my gosh, this dog drives me insane, but he's so cute. Good evening. It is, what time is it? Good, it's 5, yeah. Good evening. Hey, how's it going? It's been a long time since we've done a video like this. Actually, we've never done just a solely book-related video. This is gonna be the first time, but it's been a really long time since I was regularly uploading on this channel, and I thought, hey, this is the time. I want to go over all the books that I read in the month of April. Normally I update just like a little picture of what I've read and post it on my Instagram stories, but I have not been active on Instagram for a few months now, so I'm doing this instead because I just really like to talk about what I've read, and I remember the books a lot better when I have talked about them to someone. This time it may be you. The kids and Scott are at the table right behind me, playing with kinetic sand and wiki sticks, so you'll hear little bits of chatter while I do this, and we may be interrupted a few times. The first book I read in April, I cannot believe I read this book a month ago. Time is just not working the way it usually does. It feels like I read this book forever ago. I read The Exception to the Rule. I believe this book, let's see, it is by Christina Lauren. She's the same author of The Unhoneymooners, I believe, which I absolutely loved that book. And a bunch of romance authors did a little collection of novellas they put on Kindle Unlimited, and this was hers. It was called The Exception to the Rule, and it was an incredible book. It was 100 pages. It took me like less than an hour to read because a lot of the conversations were through email, so it wasn't like a full page. I have never physically reacted to a book so hard as I did this one. It was so adorable. Like I said, literally 100 pages. You should read this book if you have Kindle Unlimited. It was so good. I haven't read any of the other little novellas. I planned to, but I had just read The Unhoneymooners in March, and I really enjoyed that book, so I was kind of on a Christina Lauren kick. And since that one was on Kindle Unlimited, I just picked it up and went for it, and it was so good. I cannot recommend it enough. Honestly, I kind of feel like all romance books should be 100 pages. It was like the perfect length. It was, yeah, it was good. I loved it. And I kind of just threw all my books in a pile next to me. Butcher and Blackbird book by Bryn Weaver. My mom bought this book and she read it, and she talked about this for so long. She was like, you have to read it. I did. I did not really enjoy it. Let me just tell you that I don't like spicy scenes in books. I skip them. Especially if I'm listening to an audiobook, I fast forward, and you had to skip a lot of this book if you didn't want to read those scenes. They were pretty disgusting. They were pretty bad. I don't really rate books, but if I were to rate it, I'd probably give it like a 2.5. I also found it really predictable. Like, there was a plot twist at the end, and I figured out pretty much as soon as the character the plot twist involved was introduced, you kind of just assumed that something was going to happen with that character. I really hated Butcher. Like, I really just disliked his character so much. His name was Rowan, and he actually reminded me a lot of Rowan from Throne of Glass, and I wasn't the biggest Rowan fan then, and I'm certainly not a Rowan fan here. I just can't even express to you how much I disliked him. But I do plan on reading the second one because my mom pre-ordered it, and so she'll read it and then I have to read it, so cannot recommend that book. Cannot. I won't. The next book I read was You Again by Kate Goldberg. Scott actually got this for me. He went to Barnes & Noble with the kids and they grabbed me a book. And this book took me a really long time to get through. It was okay. I give it like a 3-star. Like I wasn't like, wow, I hate this book, I'm not having a good time, but I also wasn't like, can't wait to pick up the book and find out what's happening next. I feel like there's a very delicate balance. And so, yeah, I didn't love this book, didn't hate this book, probably. I have thought about it a lot though, because it was kind of interesting the way the whole thing was set up, and there's a lot of time that passes between the beginning and the end. So, I mean, it's an interesting read. I've seen some people liked it. I didn't love it. Next, I read Mr. Wrong Number by Lynn Painter. I have read every single one of Lynn Painter's books except for the one that came out in March. She is my favorite romance author, rom-com author. She is just really hilarious. It was fun. It was good. I liked it. I liked The Love Wager better, which was off of this book. But this one was definitely not one of my favorites of hers, but I still enjoyed reading it and I would recommend it. My mom just read it and I think she liked it. Okay, the next book I read was The Husbands by Chandler Baker. My mom has been asking me to read this book for like a year now. I finally did it, and it is, yeah, if you love your significant other, I would not read this book, especially if you have children. I found that it made me very angry at my husband. If you read this book, you will know why. But it was actually a really good book. I enjoyed reading it a lot, and I think about this book almost every single day. There's a little bit of a mystery to it, which I always like a tiny bit of mystery, but not enough where I'm stressed out. Oh, I like your guys' glasses. Those are cute.
Daddy isn't why I don't have one.
Let me see. Whoa, those look good. I love them. I would really recommend this book. It was really good. It was just long. It's like, you know, a lot of pages, tiny words type of book, but I did really enjoy it.
I love my glasses. Thank you, Daddy.
I love your glasses too.
Thank you, Daddy.
You guys look cute.
Do you have to be in the center to get the white thing?
No, it's just focusing on my face. The next book I read was Golden Sun by Pierce Brown. I read Red Rising in March. This is Scott's favorite series. He has read this book. He read this book, what, 10 years ago for the first time?
It's literally falling apart.
Yeah, he has read this series so many times. His books are all falling apart. They are so good. The first book was my favorite. I've only finished the first trilogy. I haven't read the next set of books. First one was my favorite because it read a lot more fantasy, whereas this one and Morningstar read way, way, way more sci-fi. And also the ending of this book was the worst ending I've ever read, and I was absolutely furious, and I didn't want to keep going. But I did, and it's a really good series, and I think about it almost every day. Okay, next I read Throne of the Fallen. Last year, oh, this is by Carrie Manis, I don't know how to pronounce her last name, but the last year I read the Kingdom of the Wicked trilogy, and it was one of my favorite series I read last year, so I was very excited to read this one. I love this world and how she writes. Next I read Morningstar, also by Pierce Brown. This book ended really bad as well. I think Pierce Brown should really work on how he ends his books, because we finally got to the good part and then it just like cut off. I don't want to spoil it for you, but there's going to be a spoiler because they were finally all happy. It was a happy ending. He was meeting this child he didn't even know about, and then they just said over before he even got to like hold the child in his arms. It was really aggravating, but they named the child after a really good character, so it was sweet, but I feel like he should have given us like one more chapter, come on. And then I'm getting ready to start the next trilogy to finish this off, and I don't like what's about to happen. I read the summaries for the books, and I don't like where you've taken this, Mr. Brown, but I'm gonna read it anyway. I'm not a sci-fi person, I'm really not. I actually just loathe sci-fi at this point in my life. But I'm in it to win it. I started this series. I'm gonna finish it. I have committed. Oh, you know what? I forgot a book. In between Golden Sun and Throne of the Fallen, I read The Prisoner's Throne by Holly Black, which is the sequel to The Stolen Heir, which is off of the Cruel Prince trilogy. This book was Cruel Prince was my favorite. I know a lot of people really loved The Stolen Heir, and they were rating it like 5 or 6 stars. I didn't feel that way. I didn't love Oak, I didn't love Red, but I still had affectionate feelings toward them. I wouldn't use the L word, but the first book was better than this book. Part of it being, she changed the POV. That entire book was in Ren's POV, and this one they changed it to Oak, which was good because we got a lot more of Jude Carden in the mix, but it still felt very weird to have been following Ren the whole time and been in her head, and then to suddenly change it into being Oak's head. This book was okay. I'm glad I read it, obviously, but it definitely wasn't my favorite, and it was nothing compared to the Cruel Prince books. Next, I read Bride by Ali Hazelwood. This book was interesting. I really love Ali Hazelwood. Check and Mate, her chess YA romance, is like one of my favorite books that I've read so far this year. And this one, did I read it this year or last year? I don't know, but when I read it, it was so good. This one, I really liked in the beginning. I was in it. I have a few complaints, part of it being the lore. I just felt like, what was the point of being a vampire if you weren't immortal? That's my opinion. I also felt like everything that was happening, I kind of guessed. But here's the thing. I don't like to read a bunch of spice. And there was an absolutely disgusting spice part in this book. I don't want to... It's involving a knot. Absolutely repulsive. Why would you put that in a book? That disgusted me, and now I don't. 2 years ago, I was really into reading like really trash werewolf books. So this kind of like made me reminisce on that. Oh, so good. Other than that part, disgusting. I will drop 2 stars because of that disgustingness. Allie, why did you do that? We don't need to read about that. I was like gagging thinking about it, and then I was trying to explain it to Scott, and then I had to draw a picture anatomically of what I was trying to tell him, it was disgusting. Next, I read A Wound Deeper Than Pride. I don't know who this is by. So sorry. It was on Kindle Unlimited, and it is basically a Pride and Prejudice fanfic, and it was so good. If you don't know, that's my favorite book ever written. I've read it a million times, and I have read most of the like spin-offs that people have written, like Mr. Darcy's Diary, Longbourn, etc. This was so good. Basically, when they go back to London after visiting Charlotte Lucas, there is an accident, and then they have to stay at Mr. Darcy's house, and that's how they get. It's so good. It's really good. I would recommend this if you like Pride and Prejudice. A Wound Deeper Than Pride. It's on Kindle Unlimited. I won't tell you anymore. There's not much to talk about. Most people know Pride and Prejudice, but it was good. I read A Daughter of No Worlds. This book took me for effing ever to read. I started this back in March. It's by Carissa Broadbent. She's also the same person who wrote like The Serpent and the Wings of Night. It wasn't that this book was bad. It just wasn't giving me what I needed. When I first started this book, it was right after I finished all the Harry Potter books, and I was and still am in my depressed after finishing the Harry Potter series era, and so like I really didn't need this, but I thought I would anyway, and I shouldn't have. I don't know if you know what I'm saying, but if you've given your life over to a series when it ends, you know what I'm saying. You know, you get it. So you know what I'm saying. Anyways, I started to read this book. Go ask Daddy to help you. I started reading this book when I shouldn't have. It was not my time. It was not her time, and it was okay. I'm gonna finish the series. They're just thick books. Do you know what I mean? They're like 600-700 pages. I just don't have that in me right now, but I'm going to finish it. I actually just downloaded the Percy Jackson series on my Kindle, so I'm gonna be, you know, I'm gonna be eating that up. I did read that series as a kid. But anyways, Daughter of No Worlds, it was okay. I think one of my friends said it was like one of her favorite series, so that's why I went for it. And I just don't know if I love Carissa Broadbent's writing, because even The Serpent and the Wings of Night, I was just like, I mean, I'm here. I'm not having a bad time, but I certainly am not enjoying myself at the fullest capacity. Next, I need to talk to you about two books that I read, both of these books pretty much in one day, which I don't recommend. These are both by Elsie Silver. I started the, I don't even know what the series is called, but I read the Cowboy series. The first book is Flawless. Second book is Heartless. Now, I have since finished the series. I will not talk to you about the other three books because I read them in May, but I pretty much read the first two books in one day. I put the kids to bed at 8 and I stayed up till 5 reading. I don't recommend, except for that I do because they were really good. So, the first book was really good. I enjoyed it. This series is very similar to Done and Dusted. I don't even remember, oh, Lila Sage. Lila, did you read this book and just copy and paste? Because it certainly felt like it. Most of the characters are very similar. The family dynamics, very similar. It was quite strange. And I know this series came out before Done and Dusted. So that's all I have to say on that. But maybe somebody should take a closer look at these two series because they're so similar. But anyways, Flawless one, it was like good. I was like, this is so funny. I'm going to keep going. Then I read Heartless, and that book took my heart. It was so good. Willa, I live and die for her. I would die for her. She is one of the best characters I have ever read. I want my mom to buy these books so that she can read them because it was so funny. And then Harvey, the dad of the family, oh my gosh, I was dying. He was hilarious. All his little comments killed me. This was so good. Yeah, I recommend it. Like I said, I read the other 3 books and then I just started her Wild Love book. That is why I started reading this series, because I've seen a bunch of people talk about her new release that came out in April, which is called Wild Love. And I really wanted to read that, but I kind of figured I should read the series that it was spun off from. So I did. I read all 5 of those books in 6 days. And it's the only way to do it, honestly. If you're going to read these books, you've got to commit. And you've got to live in the world for a full week. And it was so good. But I will say that Heartless, the second book, was by far my favorite. And the third book, which was Powerless, was my least favorite. That's all I'll say, I think. But I really enjoyed it. Yeah, Elsie Silver, you got it. I want to go back and read her first series, but I've heard that it's not as good, and I'm not in it right now because, like I said, I'm about to read the Percy Jackson series, so that's kind of going to take my world for a little bit. And then I got to read the rest of Pierce Brown's series, and I got to finish the Daughter of No World series, and then Powerful came out, so I'm about to be really busy. But I had a good time reading in April. That's all you need to know. April was great for me, so. May, it's not looking great, but April, we're not going to complain about her. I think that's everything I have to say. My camera has literally been flashing at me almost the entire time. Can't believe we made it this far. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.